Hello, thank you very much, dear subscribers, watchers, and class for joining my lessons online. Thank you very much for watching my videos and leaving comments that help me improve. As you may remember in the series of videos I am working on, I have already shared with you sentence fragments, comma splices, run-on sentences, and the last video I shared with you was rambling sentences. Now we're going to see a topic that is very related to rambling sentences. And I want you to really pay attention to what we're going to see today. And to start, let me just share my screen with you and show you the material I got for you today. And today we're going to study long sentences. Why are long sentences a problem when it comes to academic writing? Why are they to be avoided? And what are these long sentences I'm talking to you about? Well, these long sentences that we're going to study today include rambling sentences, stringy sentences, overloaded sentences, padded sentences, and empty sentences. Let's get ready. To get started, let's just think of the objective of this lesson. What can you expect from this lesson? Well, you're going to learn about long sentences, including rambling sentences, stringy sentences, overloaded sentences, padded and empty sentences. Let's get ready. Just as a review of what we have already studied in a video before, do you remember what a rambling sentence is? Well, a rambling sentence may be defined as any sentence that is exceedingly long and contains too many independent clauses. An independent clause, as you remember, is nothing more than a complete and independent thought. So rambling sentences are typically confusing for the readers because they often leave them out of breath. And if they are reading out loud, it's too hard to finish the idea without feeling like you're short of breath. The purpose of a sentence is to state a single idea or a small set of related ideas. But when we have a rambling sentence, this one states many ideas, most of which sometimes have nothing to do with each other. And what happens is that we overuse coordinating conjunctions. But now we talk about another kind of sentence that also represents a problem when it comes to writing. And this is another sentence fault. This is new one, so pay attention to the concept. And that is stringy sentence. Very similar to rambling sentence, do not get confused. As I told you, when we're talking about rambling sentences, we're talking about sentences that are joined together using fanboys, using coordinating conjunctions. The seven coordinating conjunctions, we use them a lot. We abuse them. And when we abuse them, we cause a rambling sentence to occur. But when we use and, the word and, to connect ideas, and we use the coordinating conjunction and too many times to connect the words and to connect also the independent clauses among one another, then we are making a stringy sentence. As the definition says, a stringy sentence contains too many ideas loosely connected by the word and. Stringy sentences seem to go on and on and on, so similar to rambling sentences. To fix stringy sentences, make each complete thought a separate sentence. Write the sentences in a logical order. That's the best advice I can give you. So let's just watch in this slide one correction method we can use. You can use conjunctions such as connectors, such as first, then, when, next, after that, and sometimes because to show the relationship between ideas. Here you have a subordinating conjunction, and sometimes these ones may work as subordinating conjunctions as well. And sometimes they are used as sequence adverbs that you can use when talking about the narration of an event, for example. Just be very careful not to overuse them and be careful not to overuse coordinating conjunctions, creating either rambling sentences or stringy sentences. Rambling sentences overuse coordinating conjunctions, almost all of them, and stringy sentences overuse the coordinating conjunction and. Here you have an example. It says, my class visited Washington, D.C., and we went to the National Air and Space Museum. And we saw the right 1903 flyer, which was the first successful airplane, and we saw Viking 1, the first spacecraft to operate on the surface of Mars. As you see the highlighted words, we have three ends. We have three coordinating conjunction ends that are connecting independent clauses. And we also have here a dependent clause. We have a which clause. We have to be very careful to avoid these. Why? Because overusing coordinating conjunctions causes a problem with the pace of your writing and the fluency that you have to have. You have here a correction method that is suggested. As I was telling you, we can use probably subordinating conjunctions so we can subordinate one clause, and we can also use sequence adverbs. Example, for the example that I gave you, we have a revision here. When my class visited Washington, D.C., we went to the National Air and Space Museum. First, we saw the Wright 1903 flyer, which was the first successful airplane. After that, we saw Viking 1, the first spacecraft to operate on the surface of Mars. See the difference here? Well, we had and here. We have now a revision that includes subordinating conjunctions and sequence adverbs that help me understand that I'm narrating what I did at the museum, what I visited, when I visited, and what I did there. So it's much more fluent and it is better and more better. I would say it's distributed logically and it's better in the way in which ideas are presented. Here you see, as you have previously seen, a sentence must be correctly punctuated, be completely logical, and have a subject and a predicate. However, writers often add more ideas than needed, or just miss to explain what they have in mind by putting those ideas in accurate words. What does that mean? That sometimes we think too much and then we want to say too much, resulting in what we have here. Here you will see a short but useful reference to mistakes such as I have already explained or recalled a little about rambling sentences and now stringy sentences that are a cousin of rambling sentences, sometimes confused because of the use of coordinating conjunctions. And the new ones that we're going to study as well are stringy sentences, overloaded sentences, padded, and empty sentences. Let's get ready with overloaded sentences. An overloaded sentence contains too much information about a single topic. You may know that what you need to say, but your reader won't understand you. Avoid sentences that contain more information that the reader can easily follow. Instead, divide such sentences into more manageable pieces that can be really grasped and that can be easily understood. Here you have examples of this problem that we sometimes make, especially when we're talking about things that we don't really handle or things that are too hard to explain, then we overload the ideas, causing the reader to be confused. This is a weak sentence because researchers interested in speech synthesis and automatic recognition need to find rules that improve intelligibility of speech. They need to study the psychological determinants more closely before they can solve what has become a complex set of questions. Do you remember the idea you saw first? Probably not. Do you identify the subject of the sentence? Probably not. Do you get a main idea from one sentence? Because this is just one sentence. It's overloaded. It contains too many ideas. So what can we do in order to improve a weak sentence like that? An improved version of this one says, researchers interested in speech synthesis and automatic recognition need to find rules that improve intelligibility of speech. Consequently, they need to study the psychological determinants more closely before they can solve what has become a complex set of questions. We divided the one long and single idea that we had before into two different constituents that have main ideas to be discussed, that have a clear subject and a clear predicate. That's one way in which you can correct it. And now I propose you a different one that is simpler and that is Probably more condensed, accurate, and easier to follow. Check the example that I wrote. To solve a complex set of questions regarding speech synthesis and automatic recognition, researchers need to find rules to improve intelligibility of speech. Easier, simpler, straighter, better? Probably yes. What do you need to do? Think of what you want to say and do not exaggerate with the details. Go to the point. Don't go around the bushes. And above all, think of your readers. Think of what they know about the topic you are explaining. And make ideas complex, but not too complex that they include too many independent and dependent clauses. Length is often blamed for sentences going early, but the problem is more complex than that because a long sentence sometimes works. Take Mark Twain's beautiful example here. He wrote the sentence that is 57 words, and still you will understand it. But we're talking about Mark Twain. At times he may indulge himself with a very long one, but he will make sure there are no flaws in it, no vagueness, no parenthetical interruption of its view as a whole. When he has done with it, it won't be a sea serpent with half of its arches under the water. It will be a torchlight procession. I think he was talking about a sentence. It's taken from an extract from one of Mark Twain's books. I think it's hot. It is about things that he's talking about. Here you have a clarifying idea about this topic. Long sentences can become confusing when we put too much information in brackets, overuse which clauses, or make our subjects too wordy or too full of details. Overloading sentences with information in brackets is a problem sometimes, and it can cause an overloaded sentence. We sometimes try to make our sentences convey too much information by embedding extra information in brackets. Take this sentence from Westpac credit card brochure about international travel insurance. The card holder becomes eligible for these overseas travel insurance when, before leaving Australia on an overseas journey, they have a return overseas travel ticket and a $500 of each of their prepaid travel costs. Example, cost of the return overseas travel ticket and or airport departure taxes and or their prepaid overseas accommodation, travel, and or other prepaid overseas itinerary items have been charged to the holder's eligible credit card account. 71 words for one idea, one sentence. Do you think that is okay? Do you think that is fair for a reader who's not probably familiar and acquainted with this idea? No, it might be very tricky and it might be not be too understandable for someone who doesn't know the policies of this company. Do you want to write like that? Write long sentences. Write too many ideas that sometimes are related but explain too much in one string. Do you want to avoid that? Make your sentences simpler than this. Here you have a clarifying note again. I think it means that you have to have, and I'll explain to you what it means. I think it means that you have to have a return ticket before you leave the country and prepay at least 500 bucks of your overseas travel expenses, including your ticket, with your credit card. Did you understand all that from this example? 71 words now have been reduced to this. But how can we be respectful and keep the same ideas that we had in the writer's original thought and make it easier? If you take out the information in brackets, the sentence is a bit easier to understand. A card holder becomes eligible for these overseas travel insurance when, before leaving Australia on an overseas journey, they have returned overseas travel ticket and a $500 of each of their prepaid travel costs had been charged to the card holder's eligible credit card account. Easier to follow? way easier. Although clearer, this sentence still needs rewriting because the word each is confusing. Given that the items in brackets are followed by and or, so we don't know if it's and or. Also, it raises questions. For example, if you pay for your accommodation with cash or another credit card, may I still be eligible for insurance? So there are gaps within the policy that are not clearly explained, but there's a lot of extra information that can be used or placed differently so that the reader can understand better. The information in brackets could have been an additional sentence using bullet points. Overseas travel expenses include the costs of, and then you can start bulleting and writing labels and then explaining what the costs are: return ticket and airport departure taxes, prepaid overseas accommodation, travel, and itinerary items. Or if you want to include another kind of costs, you can go with the list on and on, instead of having all that into just one single sentence. Trying to trick this sentence still doesn't work because the thinking behind it isn't clear. Sometimes you just have to start again and work out what you're trying to say and do what is best for your reader. Sometimes it's hard to understand a topic, and when someone asks you to write a paper, it could be a paragraph or an essay on a topic you don't quite understand, you may start putting ideas together and not thinking of what your writer really wants. On what your reader really wants to know about a topic. So you first have to understand the topic, and second, you have to learn how to explain the topic, but make it clear and make your sentences be okay and be well balanced. Overloading them with too much information in which clauses. That's another mistake that we make when we create an overloaded sentence. Take this example that I found in the Australian Financial Review during the GFC. For example, the conversion of former US investment banking giants Goldman Sachs and Morgan Stanley into commercial banks, which have tougher capital requirements, had the unintended consequence of squeezing funding to hedge funds, which in turn has exacerbated their dumping of assets across world markets. Did you understand? It's 45 words, and if you're not able to even distinguish the subject and the verb from it, you have to rewrite the sentence. It's too loaded. That's why they mean overloaded. There's a which clause there that is causing the sentence to overload, but it also has an additional problem. I am not sure who there relates to. There is an unclear antecedent, so who's doing the dumping? It's hard to tell because the sentence is not quite well written. You can also have overloading sentences with probably the subject having too many words. So sentences that have a lengthy subject, nominal group, or a noun phrase that is made of too many modifiers are difficult to read. You have here an example. The young male rats that were from the same colony as the rats with symptoms of the disease, but which do not show signs of the disease at this stage of the development, were used as the control group. As you can see here, the predicate is quite simple from the word where to the word group, but these, beginning from the and ending in the word development, is the subject. And it is made of too many details, too many modifiers. So the noun phrase here is a way too long. Rewritten this one to make it shorter and more effective. The symptom-free young male rats, just that, were used as the control group, period. These rats were from the same colony as the rats showing symptoms of the disease. You don't need to cram every idea into just one sentence. Come on, you can use periods, semicolons, and you can make other transitions so that you make your sentences clearer. What other causes of overloaded sentences have you noticed? Well, writing is less about putting words on a page or a screen than it is about putting thoughts in order. It doesn't matter how many words you want to include in a paper. You need to be aware that you need to use the words that are correct and that explaining and over explaining won't make your reader understand you. So you have to know that writing is, as it says, less about putting words on a page or a screen than it is about putting thoughts in order. First, think of what you want to say. Order your ideas before writing. Do some brainstorming. Have ideas, main ideas and minor ideas, so that you can have main details and the minor supporting details backing up your paragraph, but not making long sentences that do not explain anything. Our job as writers is to clarify the world and ideas for our audience. That means illuminating, showing something that was hidden before and simplifying, not making more difficult. Sorting out ideas, phenomena, and events that are tangled and difficult to understand. If things are tangled, they need to be untangled. So you need to be careful with the things that you're saying so that you can make your sentences strong enough for your readers to understand. Consider these tangled ideas. By the way, I invented none of them. I'm about to show you examples that I have taken from former students' papers, and do not really pay attention to the mistakes. They are just taken for the sake of understanding the topic. Okay? So let's not judge, but learn. Here you have an example. We were informed of your government's new initiative to link young people about to graduate from post-secondary education with small businesses who need skilled employment candidates by a teacher from Saskatchewan, who is a member of our team of educators that is championing the inclusion of health literacy into high school curricula. Do you get the idea? My advice for you to revise this kind of mistake is the following. Go over the sentences, highlight those words that are important, and start creating a sentence that says the core, the essence, the gist of this. Too many words. How many ideas are crammed into that one sentence, the one we have just seen, this one? Look at this. It looks like a paragraph in size, but it is only a sentence. You see here a capital letter and a period, and there's no comma, no period, no semicolon in between. It is grammatically correct, but it has 5 dependent clauses, 9 prepositional phrases, and 51 words in total. No, I'm not going to give an 8th grade lesson in grammar or parsing sentences, or I'm not going to say that I'm going to teach you how to put one idea after another one to create a paragraph, because this is a topic we're going to study in another video or in another class. But what I'm saying is that this is too much for any audience. There are at least 14 different, if linked, ideas in the previous sentence. What do you need to do? Establish the idea, the main idea you want to really get into your writing, and then divide them. Use semicolons, use periods in order to create secondary ideas. But you don't really come with a paragraph size idea and say that this is a sentence, because that is obviously an overloaded sentence. As he suggests, here's another example. The binary logic of many sociological texts encourages an error-centric analysis that conceptually constructs a historical, a political, social science which avoids an analysis of the political and economic exploitation that is associated with racial and ethnic prejudice and discrimination. Is it hard to understand? It is very hard to understand. So what do we need to do? Separate the ideas, make ideas shorter, and understand which one is the essence of the sentence. As you have seen, I haven't corrected any of them, because the purpose is that you go over the sentences that you see here and you correct them in your notebook, and we discuss them in class. The previous one starts with binary logic. goes through sociology, history, politics, and social science. Some other ideas that some other ideas, and at the end, it ends with discrimination. So it's like wandering in a college campus and wondering how you got to the garbage room when you started in the computer lab and were hoping to get to the cafeteria. There's no way in which your reader will understand something that you want to say if you say, as he suggests, the binary logic, and then you start going the binary logic, and then you go over historical, political science, and social science, and then exploitation, and then ethnic prejudice, and then discrimination. There are too many subjects discussed there, so you need to focus on one. I call these ones overloaded sentences. They can just not be in a paragraph, and they can never be a sentence that is just discussing one single idea. Remember, a sentence has to be logical. Why? They cannot express much because they say too much information. By the time you get to the end of a sentence like that, you have already forgotten the beginning and you don't know what is in the middle. So you need to make ideas better. You need to make ideas shorter and you need to make ideas simple. Remember my principle, keep it simple. Here's one confession. Had he known that Ralph had managed to break into the apartment and very quickly before he had followed the three of them to the video store, Andy might have given a small bit of thought to the intelligence of listing a good many words that clearly indicated his belief that his pursuers were idiots. But he didn't, much to the displeasure of his unseen audience. What does the writer what does the writer really want to say? Do you get the idea? I hope you're taking notes on the examples I'm giving you because these examples are going to be discussed in class. Here's an organizational problem. Sentence overload is caused when you have so much to say and you try to get it out all at once. The solution is simple. Get a grip of your sentences as well as your whole document. How a grip? You need to ask yourself these questions. What is the goal? What are you trying to accomplish with these thoughts? What do you want your readers to do after reading? Who are you saying this to? What do they already know? What do you want them to know? Of all the ideas in that long, convoluted sentence, which one is the most important? Plan. What other information does the audience need to understand your main point? How is this other information related to the main point? And in that way, you will read your sentence. Think of what you want to say. Decide what idea is main and which one is secondary, or which one can disappear, or which one is not needed, or which one is extra. You need to keep it simple. Now, organize it. Put the most important idea first. If two ideas are equally important, make each one part of a separate sentence, or make a compound sentence if it is possible. Then use less important ideas as dependent clauses or qualifying phrases. Remember, there is sentence variety you need to respect, and there is sentence length that you also need to respect in order to make your sentences well balanced and your paragraphs logical, balanced, equilibrated, and effective, which is the purpose. You want to write effectively, so you have to keep it simple sometimes. And if ideas are too complex that you don't understand them, first you have to understand what you want to say and then put them into paper. You don't always have to repeat qualifying information. Here you have an example of that sometimes may look like you have like deleted too much information, but it's not only because you want to delete it, but because you don't need it. And if your ideas are well explained, you don't need to include that information. Notably, policymakers in India have made financial inclusion a priority, according to Speaker L.D. Patel, Deputy Director of the 3X of India. where all Indian institutions have been requested by the Central Regulatory Department of India to formulate board-approved educational inclusion plans for the next 3 years. You don't have to repeat qualifying information because what happens is that you make a sentence this long that takes you to policymakers at the beginning and ending not understanding the whole idea itself. What's a possible solution for that? Simpler, shorter, better. The Indian government has asked all Indian institutions to develop plans to bring education to the poorest communities within 3 years, said L.D. Patel, Deputy Director of the 3X. Compare, count the number of words you have here. I'll give you some seconds. How many words do you identify? How many words do you understand? How many of these ideas that are into one sentence that are supposed to discuss just one single idea do you really get? And now, if you compare, did you understand this idea better? Obviously, yes, because this one is shorter, because it is simpler, and because it is well explained. It is a sentence. It is logical, it begins with a capital letter, and it ends with a period. And there's a lot of logic in the sentence. Now, sometimes it seems as if the writer changed his or her mind halfway through the sentence. And then he's trying to write something, but he suddenly switches the topic. See an example like this. It highlights the growing importance and recognition of healthy nutrition continues to gain in Canada and international with the availability of more resources, information, and good practices to help develop strategic priorities, research, evaluation, and programs. It highlights the growing importance and recognition of healthy nutrition, continues to gain in Canada and internationally with the availability of more resources, information, and good practices to help develop strategic policies, research, evaluation, and programs. Did you understand? Is it too plagued with information? Yes, it is. Solution for that one. The importance of healthy nutrition is gaining recognition internationally. There are more resources, information, and good practices available to help develop strategic priorities, research evaluation, and programs. Is there any other way we can solve this and make it even shorter? Yes, it is. I will leave it to you so that you can tell me in class what a better suggestion for that one can be. Here's another from fiction, and you have here the example says Tristan blinked, his head moving up, not realizing he was so tired. Normally, he was more than energized and almost always ready to go. This actually combines several problems common in fiction from the writers. More detail than the reader needs or wants, and telling instead of showing. I would amend it too. Tristan's head nodded involuntarily. What's up, Tristan? Annabella asked. You're usually ready to go. Here, I have taken this one, and the suggestion here is this solution this way because I know the book where it comes from, but it is from fiction, and sometimes it is hard to fix something you have never seen. So take a look at it, write it in your notebook, try to understand what it says, and see if it matches with the solution I'm giving you. And here's a couple that I received from students. My challenge to you is to turn these into readable prose. You may leave your responses below, or you can discuss them with me in class. So I'm not gonna read it. I'm just gonna leave it here, and I'm gonna let you take probably a picture or a screenshot so that you can later discuss it with me. And here's the second one that we can also help and improve together. Now, we have already talked a lot about stringy sentences, rambling sentences, and overloaded sentences. But there are a couple of two more sentences that create another problem. And these ones are called padded sentences and empty sentences. A padded sentence has more words that are needed to communicate an idea. In other words, it contains unnecessary elements and is repetitive and dull and boring. Sometimes padded sentences have long phrases that can be replaced with shorter ones. At other times, padded sentences bore the reader by needlessly repeating an idea that you probably have already said. Let's check an example here. I was upset because of the fact that my friend wouldn't ride the roller coasters with me. The reason is is of the opinion that roller coasters look like they could be full of danger. Do you see the problem here? Did you understand the sentence? Probably yes. These ones are not as serious as overloaded sentences that make you feel confused, puzzled, awkward, and totally lost. These ones have the characteristic of adding extra words. So, in other words, they are too wordy, too repetitive. Here you have a possible suggestion and a solution for this. To fix this mistake, think of the extra words in the sentence above and rewrite the sentence. While you do so, review the simple version methods that followed. Think about what you really want to say. Look for words and phrases that could be deleted and never missed. Look for places where one or two words could replace new words. For example, you might see here, I was upset because of the fact that. I was upset because of the fact that you don't need that. My friend wouldn't ride roller coasters with me. Here you say again, the reason is he. The reason is. You have already said because. You don't need to repeat that. He is of the opinion. He's of the opinion. You can replace is of the opinion 1, 2, 3, 4 words for thinks. The roller coasters look like they could be full of danger. How can you make the sentence work better, improve it, and avoid repetition and wordiness? I was upset because my friend wouldn't ride the roller coasters with me because they are too dangerous. Still, it is worthy. I was upset because my friend wouldn't ride the dangerous roller coasters with me. So you have avoided so many words, repetition that is totally unnecessary and boring. And now, empty sentences is the last thing we're going to study. A paragraph should not include sentences that do not say anything worth saying. These sentences are sometimes called empty sentences. The first sentence is this prayer is empty. The second one is not. Why empty? Cairo, Egypt is a large city because it is so vast. The word large and the word vast are synonyms. What happens if I want to improve it? Cairo, Egypt, is a city of about 8 million people. I'm including a fact. I'm saying something interesting. But in this one, it is empty because I'm not saying anything. See the mistake? I hope you do. Some sentences say nothing or repeat an idea that has already been stated. Example, I like bike riding because it is fun and enjoyable. How many words have been repeated and are similar? You have here, other sentences make statements that are not supported by facts. Example, they are my favorite bikes because they are the best ones. There's no fact here, so it is empty because it provides no facts. They are my favorite because they are the best ones. Why are they the best ones for you? And in the first idea, you have I like bike riding because it is fun and enjoyable. Isn't enjoyable and fun the same thing? Or at least synonyms? Choose one. Do not say the same thing all over again. It's not funny, it's dull, and it plagues your writing with mistakes that are unnecessary. Eliminate words and phrases that needlessly repeat an idea. Don't leave your reader asking why or so what. Add reasons, examples, and facts to support your opinions. Here you have some examples that I'm going to share with you later on the practice. So don't worry about these ones. But the previous ones I said you should be writing down. I mean it. Write them down so that we can discuss them in class. And these ones are going to be included in a practice guide that I'm going to share with you on Google Classroom by the end of this week. To finish, let's see if you got all the super long sentences names. What is a stringy sentence and what is a rambling sentence? Rambling sentences are characterized by the overuse of and, but, so, or, for, nor, yet, and so, because they use all the coordinating conjunctions to join independent clauses. But a stringy sentence is very similar to a rambling sentence because it connects independent clauses, but most of the times you're going to see the word and a lot of times. What is an overloaded sentence? An overloaded sentence is created when you use too many which clauses, when your subjects are too long and are full of pre-modifiers and post-modifiers, and the noun phrases are too long, when there are too many phrases, dependent clauses, and independent clauses into one sentence, when the size of the sentence is as long as a paragraph and it discusses too many subjects and topics within the same idea, and the overloaded sentences can be definitely fixed when you first think of the main or primary ideas and then you think of other ideas that come next and that can help back up a main idea, but they are not the main idea. So you don't have to place them in the same string of words. What is a padded sentence? It's the repetition of extra words. Repetition, extra information that you can probably miss out because they have been said in a way. Fun and enjoyable is the same. Boring and dull is the same. Flat is the same. So if you're repeating the same word, just use one, only one. You have already said it, so you don't have to repeat it. What is an empty sentence? An empty sentence lacks facts and is saying something that is obvious. So you need to back it up and say it using an interesting idea within the same sentence. Some of the methods that you have to use to correct them include, in the case of long sentences that have been thought and have too many independent clauses or dependent clauses, use both coordination, subordination. Vary the lengths of your sentences, but connect one and the other one, especially if you're fixing a paragraph. If your sentences are empty or are padded, you need to think of ideas that are strong for you to say them. And if they are worth writing, then you write them. If not, you can combine this phrase with another idea. And then you're going to make sentences that are worth reading. I think that was all for today. And I really thank you for joining not only my videos, but for joining my classes. Thank you very much for taking notes on the video that we have just watched and get ready to discuss it in class. Thank you, watchers, viewers, and subscribers. Bye bye.